It is my honor to invite Her Excellency, Ms.Annalena Baerbock, President of the 80th session of the General Assembly, to deliver remarks.
Six million Jews, almost 2/3 of Europe's Jewish population murdered, targeted and killed simply for who they were, Jews. Millions more, including Roma and Sinti, people with disabilities, LGBTQ+, killed in cold blood, being described by Nazi Germany as asozial, not worthy of life. Human beings inflicted these horrors upon other human beings made possible by dehumanization that allowed unimaginable cruelty to become routine, what Hannah Arendt called the banality of evil. Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, Rabbi Schneider, ladies and gentlemen, and especially distinguished Holocaust survivors, Mrs. Conrad, Mrs. Weinstein, dear Ms. Tomenko, and Ms. Blumenthal-Lazan, who I just met at the corridor and realized that the deportation camp Bergen-Belsen, where she was deported as a child, I visited decades later as a student from my school. Dear Excellencies, dear ladies and gentlemen, on today's International Day of Commemoration in memory of the victims of the Holocaust, it is our duty not only to recommit to the promise of never again, a promise that is etched into the very DNA of our United Nations, its charter, and its Universal Declaration of Human Rights. But it's also our duty to speak out, even louder than before, when signs of dehumanization emerge again. As the Holocaust did not begin with gas chambers, it began with words and with laws, with singling out Jews just because they were Jews, with synagogues burned, and with neighbors who choose silence when the Jewish store next door was boycotted, and when the owner was dragged out from his home with his little girl. As Holocaust survivor Simon Wiesenthal said, "For evil to flourish, it only requires good men to do nothing." A quote you can also find at the memorial site of the former concentration camp Auschwitz. And given that we are living in times with shockingly high levels of anti-Semitism and Holocaust denial, just these days, a study came out from UNESCO that in 3/4 of every classroom in Western Europe, you see anti-Semitism these days. I'm very thankful to the mission of Poland and Germany, who will enable us to have a live virtual guided tour of the different sites of Auschwitz-Birkenau tomorrow here at the United Nations at 8:30 a.m. in the Trusteeship Council chamber. In times where people deny that Auschwitz even happened, a guide at Auschwitz will take us to the piles of millions of shoes being exposed there. Shoes like yours, big and small, brown little shoes of girls, sandals like our own daughters would wear, torn off from the little Jewish girl taken from her home, torn off from her alongside her clothes, her hair, stripping away every shred of humanity before sending her with millions to the gas chamber. Think of these shoes, the shoes of the little Jewish girl she once wore. Every time you hear and see the warning signs of what made the Holocaust possible once, in rhetoric of us versus them, the dehumanization of people, putting Jews against others. This means not turning a blind eye to anti-Semitism in all its different forms. When more than 1,400 Jews were murdered, slaughtered, and kidnapped at the Nova Music Festival, in their kibbutzim, at their homes, on the 7th of October. Or when you read an online post denying that the Holocaust happened. But also, when your colleague is afraid to show her Star of David necklace. And also, when your neighbors are faced with racial profiling, with Islamophobia, with sexism, with homophobia. Because questioning the rights of some simply for who they are, where they come from, or what the color of their skin is, has all the same end: dehumanization, which eventually spreads to all. As back then, German pastor Martin Niemöller warned and engraved at the Holocaust Memorial in Boston, Massachusetts, in a longer version, I quote, "When they came for the Jews, I did not speak up. I wasn't a Jew. When they came for the Catholics, I did not speak up. I was a Protestant. When they came for me, no one was left to speak up." Never again is not a slogan. It's a duty to speak up and to stand up, to defend the dignity and human rights, not of some, but of every member of our human family, everywhere, every day.
I thank the President of the General Assembly, Annalena Baerbock, and